Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We're going to read the fifth service, which starts on page 88. And tonight we're here because it's Shabbat. We're here because we're going to celebrate with the family a birthday blessing, a very happy thing. And we also have a gathering of a family who are mourning the loss of a mother. And two families come together for different reasons, but it's really why we belong to a congregation. We come to a congregation to share our happiness, but also hopefully to share the sad moments and know that our hearts go out to you as well. And Yossi, you were here praying for your mother, and we prayed with you. And we hope that that moment helped you to face her end and helped her knowing of the love you and your family have given her at that moment. And so we combine as a family to celebrate Shabbat and to celebrate this evening. And in fact, the opening passage will be fairly meaningful on page 88. So would you please all rise? Aham haochlim b'choshech, ra'u or gadol. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. In the past week, some have known sorrow or disappointment, and for some the future looks far from bright. Let this Sabbath be an oasis of quietness. To the lonely may it bring companionship, to the sorrowing comfort, to the dispirited courage, to all of us peace of mind and hope for the future.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushani b'mitzvotav v'tzivani l'chadlik shel Shabbat.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Please be seated. I have to tell you, these two young ladies have rushed here, having just arrived back in the country, one from leading a birthright tour and the other from spending 6 days, was it, at the camp in Calais, helping to look after refugees. So Mazel tov on all your efforts, and we're proud to have you with us tonight. The bottom of the page. There are days when we seek material things and measure failure by what we do not own. There are days when we exploit nature with reckless greed. There are days when we think only of ourselves. Tov lahodot l'Adonai, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות. Adonai meod amku mashavotecha tzadik ata amayim b'chatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvon b'seva T'shenim v'rananim yechayu lagid ki asha Adonai tzuri alo avlatabo. The Eternal One reigns, is in grandeur robed. The world stands firm. Your throne is established from of old. The oceans roar, eternal God, the thundering oceans roar. Yet greater than the roaring waves, mightier than the breaking seas. Sure are the proofs of your power, O God. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamo v'zracho, b'nei borechad hishmianu, el hamyuchad Adonai echad. Shemo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'litila lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela likrat Shabbat lecha b'nei lecha kehimko haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha Tov ma'aseh b'machashvatila lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela mi'orori etorori kevaori komiori korai miori shedaberi kavod anai lecha dodi likrat kala boi v'shalom ateret ba'ala gam b'simcha u'v'tzola toch emunei am segula boi kala lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Please rise. Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach. Baruch Adonai hamavorach. Leolam vaed. Praise the one to whom our praise is due. Please sit down. And let us read together. We praise you, Eternal One, our God, Sovereign of the universe, whose word brings on the evening, whose wisdom opens heaven's gate, whose understanding changes times and seasons, and whose will sets the stars in their courses in the sky. You make day and night, rolling light away from darkness, and darkness from light. You make day pass and bring on the night, and separate day from night. You rule the hosts of heaven. We praise you, O God, whose word makes evening fall. Avat olam, tov et Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, ukim משפטים, אותנו למדת, אותנו למדת. ועל כן אדוני אלוהינו משכבנו וקומנו נשיח בחוקיך, ונדאג Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kavod, Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol ma'odecha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta ba v'shiftecha b'beitecha v'lechtecha b'derech v'shoftecha v'kumecha v'shartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha v'chitavtam al mezuzot beitecha v'ishtarecha v'lamaz tizkaru So it gives me great pleasure, and it works out that I'm here to ask for God to bless you on this occasion. And I recall the time we stood here under the chuppah. I don't know how many years ago that was, but time has gone by and you two are not there. But you are the added blessing of the love that your parents have for each other. The God of days and years, author of life, our times are in your hand. But we thank you now for the blessing of life and for all that enriches our lives. For you, Owen, I know the greatest satisfaction comes from your family, from your wife, Gaynor, your daughters, Lauren and Lana, who, as I said earlier, have rushed here to be with you on this special occasion. Rushed here from different places where they were doing good mitzvahs. But we gather today in special thankfulness to celebrate your special birthday. And we pray that you be blessed with many, many years of health and happiness and making good music, of travels and excitement to come. And may you ever know that precious gift of the contentment of a united and a devoted Jewish family. for all of you bring much to our Jewish people and to humanity, as well as to your own lives. And so, with those ancient words, Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ha'er Adonai panav elecha v'ychunecha, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha, Shalom. We pray that God will bless you and keep you, that God will turn towards you with kindness and be gracious to you, that God will turn towards you with tenderness and give you many healthy and happy years, and will give you a sense of shalom, of peace. Amen. And Mazel Tov. Give him a kiss. That's right. And Mazel Tov to you. Thank you. Please be seated. Hold on, let's close the oven. Please be seated. All this we hold to be true and sure. You alone, eternal one, are our God, and we're Israel, your people. You freed us from oppressors and delivered us from tyrants. You led us out of Egypt forever to serve you in freedom. When we witnessed your power, we praised your name and gave thanks. Willingly we accepted your rule. Then full of joy we sang together. Amocha balim Adonai, mi kamocha nedo b'kodesh, nora tehilot osefele, Adonai imloch leolam voed. ונאמר כי פדר אדוני יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. And together let's read, Grant, eternal God, that we may lie down in peace, and let us rise up to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your wise counsel, and for your name's sake be our help. Shield us from sickness and war, from famine and distress, and keep us from wrongdoing. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you are our guardian and deliverer, a gracious and merciful God. Guard our going out and our coming in, that now and always we may have life and peace. We praise you, O God. May your sheltering peace descend on us and all who dwell on it. Please rise. Adonai, sefatai tiftachu fi yagid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim ve'Konei HaKol, V'Zorchei Chasdei Avot ve'Imachot, U'Mevi Ge'olah Livnei V'neihem, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים רחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לעושי יפה. מי כמוך ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני, לחיי המתים. You are holy, awesome is your name. We have no God but you. We praise you, eternal one, the holy God. Please be seated. And we read together, we thank you, O God, for this Sabbath day, which calls us to a closer communion with you. Though you are near to us at all times, you reveal your presence most clearly when we direct our thoughts towards you in worship and meditation. In you, O God, our humanity is exalted. You are alive. From you come its greatness, its power, its beauty. Establish in us, we humbly pray, a devotion to you that shall be firm in all the circumstances of life. May this service renew in our hearts the sense of your presence. Bring us peace. Amru v'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, lazot et ha-Shabbat, ledorotam berit olam, beini uvein b'nei Israel, oti li'olam, sheshet yamim, ader Adonai, et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz, u'yom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafar. And together, our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, eternal one, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, that may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. Praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. But say, Adonai Eloheinu ba'amacha Yisrael, u'tefilatam be'ahava tekabel, u'tehil ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha, baruch ata Adonai, she'otecha levadecha, bi'ira na'avo. Modim anachnu lach, שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו לעולם ועד. צור חיינו, מגן ישנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. נודה לך ונספר תהילתך, על חיינו המסורים בידיך, ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך, ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו, ועל נפלותיך וטובותיך, שבכל עת ערב ובוקר בצהריים. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך, ולך נאה להודות. רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום, כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. טוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה, בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, עושי השלום. In a moment for silent prayer. know you've all come here tonight not to listen to me but to Jane, but just a few thoughts before we ask Jane to come here and tell us about an exciting event that took place, is it 2 weeks ago now already? Because today is the 6th day of Elul, and traditionally one is meant to mark each day of the month, preparing for the first day of the next month of Tishrei and Rosh Hashanah and the Yamim Noraim, the days of awe, which is the proper name, and somehow or other much more spiritual than the common High Holy Days. And this thought reminded me of a minor tussle that Rabbi Charles Middleburgh and I had with the publishers over the name for our anthology. I wanted it named 40 Days and Nights because the book contains 40 chapters of readings, one chapter for each of the 30 days in Elul, followed by 10 readings for the 10 days of awe. The book was designed to help a Jew prepare for and meditate on these penitential days. But the publisher quite rightly was marketing it for a wider audience. After all, they are the Canterbury Press, an imprint of a Christian printing house. But looking up the readings that we included for day 6, I found one by the founder of our liberal Judaism, Claude Montefiore, whose opening words seemed to me like a comment on where we find ourselves in the United Kingdom on this very Shabbat. Montefiore went on to tie it to true religion, but it rings a bell surely as a reflection on our political chaos. He wrote, and I quote, "We reflect upon all the evils and mischief, the waste, the cruelties and the follies, the hair-splitting, the casuistry, the formalism, the hypocrisy, the intolerance, the aridity, which the divorce of religion from morality has produced in almost every creed." We can surely say amen to that. But the list of evils and mischief could well apply to the goings-on in Parliament this very moment. Add in words like power, opportunism, other words, or maybe I have it wrong, and it is courage and honesty and insight, and so on, to those who genuinely believe that they know what is for the best. All we can do tonight is to hope and pray that whatever comes about is for the best. We can do no other. Montefiore continued, "Religion is not dogma. It is not belief. It is not ceremonies and observances, but it is goodness and justice. It is righteousness and love." Please God, this would apply to politics and all human affairs. But to change track with a reading not in my book, which of course is on sale still, but anyway. A comment by Moses Isserlis of Krakow, 16th century, on the Shulchan Aruch. He said, "It is customary to blow the shofar at the end of the morning services throughout Elul. In some places it is blown after the afternoon service, and there are still others where the shofar is also blown after the evening service. But I, Ephraim Zalman Margolit, late 18th century, I've never heard of such a custom in our district of Prodi. It's a reminder that true religion can include all sorts of different practices, beliefs, and approaches without, if there is goodwill, destroying itself, so long as there is this goodwill. So let's start a new custom here at Northwood and blow the shofar during this Shabbat evening service. It would be nice if its clarion call brought common sense to many a mind and to a heart. But now, thoughts of another synagogue, where sadly the shofar will not be blown tonight or even on Rosh Hashanah, and that's in Kolin, the Czech town from where one of our Torahs comes from. And 2 visits, actually. It was visited last week or the week before, by our member, Peter Fuchs. He couldn't be with us tonight, so he just added a paragraph, which I thought of some interest to those who know Peter and his background. For he came here as a refugee in 1968 at the Prague Spring, and he and his family became members and grew up here. But this is what he wrote. I visited Colin last week to show my grandsons, Benjamin Jacob and Anne, that's his partner, the Stolperstein, a František Ascherman, my very, very distant relative by my grandmother, Camilla Ascherman, whom I never met. Whilst I was in Colin, I had to show them the synagogue. I'd been there several times for free, but this time, however, they are charging for entry. When I mentioned we came from Northwood of being members of MPLS, the lady in the reception immediately let us in without paying. I wouldn't have minded paying, but a gesture and smile was welcoming. Also, my fluent Czech must have helped. We took several photographs inside, checked the display cabinets, and enjoyed that Andrew and MPLS were part of it all. On the way out, the same lady asked if we were in Kolín for the swim in the River Elba. I had to disappoint. Before Kolín, we were in Prague for 3 days to show the boys where I lived, where I went to school and university, and where I learned to ballroom dance. We also visited the famous 4 synagogues in the Staro Mesto. The 5th, the Spanish synagogue, was closed for reconstruction. In Pinka Synagogue, we looked up the names of my family members who perished in the Second World War. There were a few. The boys were interested, but their mobile texting interested them even more. The Prague now is not the Prague that I knew. Anyway, but that's just a short to know that Jews from MPLS seem to find themselves in Kolín. You never know well, for different reasons. And also, just a hint of the meaning it makes to the next generation. So, Jane.
So yes, 2 weeks ago, I attended a Friday night service in Prague, hosted by one of the progressive communities there. That there is more than one progressive community in Prague is perhaps astonishing, and that I and other overseas visitors were invited to attend a Kabbalat Shabbat service with one of them, or more accurately, that they laid on the service specifically because we were visiting, might seem surprising. But I did learn a long time ago that anything involving NPLS and the Czech Republic is an emotional journey into untold possibilities. And this Erev Shabbat was just another small step into that great leap of new MPLS Czech experiences. The service was held in what is called the Jewish Town Hall, a building dating back to 1577, which now houses the Federation of Jewish Communities in the Czech Republic, including the Jewish community in Prague and the Czech Union of Jewish Youth. We were in the Bet Din room, whose centerpiece is a portrait of Emperor Franz Joseph I of Austria, hanging there because of his actions in granting the Jewish population equal rights, putting into law his opinion that, in his words, the civil rights and the country's policy is not contingent on the people's religion. Before the service started, František, the lay leader of the community, apologized profusely that there weren't more people there. Normally, apparently, they can have up to 100 members in the congregation, but that weekend was still peak holiday season. I couldn't quite convince him that having 15 regulars turn up to a Friday night service in the height of August seemed impressive to me. But then I was at the same time apologizing profusely myself for the Israeli members of our party who were somewhat late in arriving for the service. Also in our group were Rachel, Sue Bard from Edinburgh, and Jeremy Flax, also from MPLS, who had flown to Prague for the weekend just to be there for the service, even though he didn't come to swim on the Sunday. So the service was led by the Chassan, Hannah Maxova, who is an opera singer. So as you can imagine, the service was a sheer delight. The Siddur was in Hebrew, English, Czech, and Hebrew transliteration. So we were pretty much able to follow the proceedings. Some of the tunes were the same as ours, some were different, some we joined in with the singing, sometimes not. I think it's fair to say the visitors were actually more vocal than the regulars, and maybe they appreciated this or maybe not. But everyone made us feel extremely welcome. Hannah Maxova had prepared written English translations of her sermon, and Maira Sharona and her two children, so Hannah Greenfield's daughter, granddaughter, and great-grandchildren, respectively, were invited to light the candles, and Sue was invited to give the blessing over the bread. František then asked me to say a few words about the swim and to invite everybody there to come along, and I hadn't quite prepared for this, so it was a little bit off the cuff. František adopted a kind of Python-esque approach to translation. I was still speaking about the events of 2015 when the idea first appeared for the swim, but even with my non-existent Czech, I could work out that his translation of what I was saying included the words 500 meters, 1 kilometer, 3 kilometers. I was clearly taking too long to explain what it was all about. Sue and I had taken along gifts for František and Hannah: shortbread from Edinburgh, tea made or at least packaged in Windsor, calendar of London, a copy of Devar and LJ Today, and in return, František gave me a CD of Hannah singing some of our familiar Siddur music, which I'm very happy to loan out. They'd laid on food for us after Kiddush. They'd ordered food for 30. There were about 20 people there. The kosher restaurant that did the catering had provided food for about 50, so of course no one went hungry. It was one of those experiences that at the same time felt familiar but completely alien, normal, and at the same time extremely special. I felt surrounded by friends, even though most of the people in the room I'd either only met that evening or met for the first time last year. And as I always do when celebrating Shabbat somewhere other than MPLS, I felt connected to Jews I'd never met, particularly those who had died or were murdered many years ago. And I did take a moment to reflect that my biggest concerns about attending the service that evening had been, would the BA pilots go on strike that day, and would I find the right address in Prague? Having visited the Museum of Communism in Prague that afternoon, and of course with the aspects of the Holocaust that had led to us all being in contact with each other in the first place, I was acutely aware that these worries were trivial compared to those that members of the Czech Jewish community had lived through, which made it even more special that we were able to celebrate Erev Shabbat together that evening. And so to the swim. For those that haven't heard me say before, I've plotted history. The Hannah Greenfield Memorial Swim started last year. Hannah Greenfield was a Holocaust survivor from the town of Kolin. Swimming was something that she did as a child. As a young girl, she used to swim in the river in Kolin with her Jewish and her non-Jewish friends and neighbours. But nobody has swum in that river since 1933. A long time. Until a few of us went and did a recce a couple of years ago. And the reason the swim came about was because we realised that nobody swims in the river, but that Hannah had swum, and we felt it was appropriate to organise this event. So 2 weeks ago on the Saturday, Sue, Rachel and I went for a practice swim in the river. And we were mildly alarmed to discover that there was a small rock festival taking place on Comock Island that afternoon. Comock Island is where the swim takes place. We were there first thing in the morning, so undeterred by the fence that had been erected across the path by the river, we negotiated our way down through the slippery rocks and into the water and had a lovely swim. And as before, the water was warm, I thought it was warm, and clear, and the current was virtually non-existent. During the day, whilst wandering around the town and visiting the synagogue, I was delighted to see some posters advertising the swim. And I was even able to show the girl in my hotel, so the terrazia where we normally stay was fully booked, probably by the people running the music festival. So I stayed somewhere different. And I showed the receptionist a photo of the poster of the swim, because when she had seemed somewhat surprised when I checked in to the hotel that not only had I come from England as a tourist to Kolin, but that I had come to swim in the river there. So even though the poster may have convinced her that I wasn't making it up, it wasn't enough to convince her to take part. So Sunday morning dawned, bright, sunny, warm, perfect conditions. Clearly, Mr. Lotka, the key organiser, and the swimming club had taken account of the music festival, and for those that know the area, he'd moved everything to the top end of the island, where the pedalows used to be and the playground area. Mr. Lotka had a bright, beaming smile on his face and clearly had everything well under control. We got there early, but by 10 a.m. the place was filling up with people, young and old, and there were familiar faces from last year. Gabriella, the translator, came bounding up to say hello, as did Lenka from the town hall. Several members of the Prague Jewish community were there again, and yes, Vít Rakušan, the former mayor, turned up. He is no longer mayor. I got the impression he had stood down due to workload involved in now being a member of parliament, rather than actually not being elected. The new mayor had apparently been his deputy mayor, Michael Kasper, and according to Vít, is very supportive of the swim and all of the Jewish commemorative work. But he couldn't be there that day. The new deputy mayor, Michael Neibart, did in fact come along and said a few words. Anyway, Mr. Rakušan was insistent that he'd promised last year that he would swim this year, and as a politician, he honours his promises. He couldn't stay afterwards as he had a meeting to go to, but he definitely swam. I gave him a copy of Devar and sent all of your greetings to him. I asked after his family. They are apparently well, not that he really gets to see them though, due to his political duties. But he made a point of saying that he was still committed to supporting the town of Kolin, and he'd even phoned the mayor as soon as he heard about the music festival to make sure that alternative arrangements would be made for the swim. We discussed all the new additions around the town, the tourist information boards, the exhibitions in the synagogue, the Jewish tourist trail. He said for him this was important not only for tourists, but also for parents from the town to show and teach their children. Anyway, back to the Hannah Greenfield Memorial Swim. So our party, we had Maira and two of her daughters swimming, Sharona and Daniela, and they had both brought their husbands and children. So Hannah Greenfield's daughter, two of her granddaughters, and four of her great-grandchildren were there. For those that know them, Yvonne and Eve had also arrived from Germany, and Sinčica, my Serbian friend who lives in Antwerp, who I met in Montenegro, was also swimming. She has trouble when people ask her where she's from. So in total, we had 8 swimmers from our group. Sinčica had also brought her mother along, whose birthday was that day, and some of you may remember that last year the swim fell on Sue Bard's birthday, so I can feel a tradition coming on. Before the swim started, the deputy mayor said a few words, then Maira spoke very movingly about her mother and what the swim means to her. I said a few words, then introduced Hannah Maxova, who sang a Shehekianu, dressed in a swimming costume, covered by a kimono decorated with musical notes, just before she got into the river for the swim. It was one of those moments. As before, people could swim 3 distances, 500 metres, 1 kilometre or 3 kilometre. This year the route was a little different. We entered from the backside of the island, off the pontoon, rather than stepping over slippery rocks, and we started the swim there. And this year we swam all the way down the side of the island for those doing the longer distances. But as before, there were essentially 2 races, one for the young fast swimmers and one for everyone else. Although I have to say this year there were a couple of adults that managed to get into the prizes in the top 3 places. So after the swim, prizes were given to the top swimmers in each category, and also certificates of taking part were given to all of us that had come from overseas, which was a really lovely touch. Scrutinising the results list showed that the youngest swimmer was 8, and the oldest was a day off turning 74, with participants from the Czech Republic, England, Scotland, Germany, Belgium, and Israel. But what for me was even more exciting was that the total number of swimmers was 68. 26 from the local swimming club, 8 our group of overseas visitors, and maybe a dozen were from the Prague Jewish Sports Club, which means that more than 20 swimmers were ordinary Czech swimmers from the town or from elsewhere that came along because they wanted to take part. And as before, there were numerous spectators. When I asked Mr. Lotka what is the maximum number of swimmers that he can take for the swim in future years, he just smiled, shrugged, and opened his hands. Sky's our limit. River's our limit. So do I think the swim will continue? According to Mr. Lotka's wife, It is already a tradition for the town. Mr. Rakushan seemed confident that the town hall will continue to stay committed to the event. And everyone departed with the words, "See you next year." I've already heard from 2 Czech people that have told their friends and colleagues about the event, and many of those people now want to come and take part in next year's swim. So what are the plans, hopes and dreams for the swim? Well, for the plans, I have a few thoughts about how to make the event a little more sustainable and how to make sure the story behind the swim is not forgotten, even if my era and I don't attend every year. I'd like to find some funding so we can provide some swim hats that weren't provided this year, so that the swimming club can actually sell those at the events and make some money, buy new ones when they're needed. I'd like to produce a small leaflet that can be given to the participants so they have the story of the swim. And I'd like to see if we could get a small exhibit into the synagogue about the swim. My hopes that the swim will become a permanent fixture for the Kolin community, for the swimming community, and the Jewish community, with more or maybe just different people from each community coming each year. And my dream, that one day one of the young Czech swimmers will be organising the swim, or maybe will be mayor of the town and will give a speech at the start of the event. And that in time, Hannah's great-grandchildren will come and say a Shehekianu before they too take part in the swim. But for the moment, all I can say is what I said in my speech before the swim this year, that now, if anyone happens to ask the mayor of Kolin, does anyone swim in the river? Now he will have to answer, yes, they do.
What's the date next year? Thank you, Jane. On page 519, page 519. When you found the page, please rise. Page 519. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Baruch Adonai Elohim, Elohei Yisrael, osei niflaot levado. Uvaruch Shem kevodo le'olam. V'yimalei kevodo et kol haaretz. Amen v'amen. The eternal God shall rule over all the earth. On that day the eternal God shall be one and known to be one. May your love, O God, rest upon us as we rest our hope in you. All the nations that you have made shall come and bow down before you and honor your name. Let God be praised by day. Let God be praised by night. Let God be praised when we lie down. Let God be praised when we rise up. Our God in heaven, let your unity be acknowledged and your sovereignty established forever. Reign over us now and always. Adonai Malech, Adonai Malach, Adonai Imloch Le'olam Va'ed. On page 522. Creator of the universe, you give us life in which joys and sorrows are commingled in accordance with your wisdom, and you send death with its promise of eternal peace. Teach us to accept humbly and courageously whatever burden is laid upon us. And on this Shabbat, on the occasion of their yahrzeits, we make mention of the names of Benjamin Ellis, the father of Hilton Ellis, Bert Herman, the father of Steve Herman and grandfather of Ed and Jess, David Berman, the husband of Pat Berman, father of Deborah Buffy, David Lambert, the husband of Barbara, and father of Judy Herman, Clive Lambert, Harold David Stone, the father of Sharon Stone, Phil and Graham, Miriam Veal, the mother of Carol Kettle, Saul Philip Solar, the father of Janine Leppard and grandfather of Jared and Brooke Leppard, Shirley Krasner, the mother of Sue Krasner, Trixie Drapkin, the mother of Neil Drapkin, and William Wolfe, the father of Joy Wainwright. And we regret to announce the death of Lily Schwartz, mother of our member Yossi Shahar, mother-in-law of Karen, grandmother of Rachel and Ben. May God comfort those who mourn and let the light of faith illumine the darkness of their sorrow with the hope of immortality. Strengthen us at all times with an unfailing trust in your providence. As we say, Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imeru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'ulam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'trumam v'yitnasei. V'tada v'yitale v'yitalal shemei d'kudusha b'rechu. Le'ela min kol bechata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechemata. Damiran bi'alama v'imeru amen. Yehei shalom araba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol b'nei Adam, imeru, amen. May great peace descend from heaven, and abundant life be granted to us and all Israel. And let us say, amen. And in a moment we will, please be seated, in a moment we'll end with Ein Keloheinu, but just 3 announcements, I think, and that is this coming Thursday, the 12th of September, we are, on behalf of Liberal Judaism, having the book launch here for a book by Rabbi Tony Bayfield, Being Jewish Today, Confronting the Real Issues. And it will be discussed, the book will be discussed by Lord Danny Finkelstein. That's, I suspect, so long as nothing further disasters happening in the House of Lords that night, together with Rabbi Alexandra Wright. Obviously there will be an opportunity to buy the book, and if you want a hint at what it's about, there is a 2-page spread about the book in the Jewish Chronicle this morning, and I put out a copy on the desk outside. Interesting, I've been asked to announce that if you have old smartphones, the Cheder are looking for them to enable them to use in lessons. Someone can explain to me how that's done. It's way beyond me, but we just had a Bible. But nowadays things are a bit different, I think, but that's what I've been asked to announce. Well, tonight has been very special, and one other, and well, there's many upcoming things. The new A to J, the Access to Judaism program, starts tomorrow afternoon at 12:30, and on the 19th of September, the local branch of Council of Christian Jews have an evening at Northwood United Synagogue where the liberal Rabbi Mark Solomon, will be talking about Jewish and Christian music. And so I'm sure it would be wonderful if many members of our own congregation would attend for that very special evening. Jane has some photographs of the swim to show us later in Kiddush, but for the moment, let's end the service with Ein Keloheinu on page 528. Eloheinu, Ein Kadoneinu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Mich Eloheinu, Mich Adoneinu, Mich Kemalkeinu, Mich Kemoshienu. Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adoneinu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adoneinu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adoneinu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Please rise. We pray that the words of our mouths and the thoughts in our hearts have been acceptable before you, our rock and our redeemer. Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai varech et amo v'shalom. Eternal God, grant strength to your people. Eternal God, bless your people. Peace. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.